Can't pay your rent, huh? The giant alien woman warned the human foreigner, HFY Story. Alex Mercer stepped off the shuttle, his boots thudding softly on the metal platform. Zyphera's city stretched before him like a living, breathing organism. Towering skyscrapers of translucent, crystal-reflected colors Alex couldn't name. Streets buzzed with alien chatter and the hum of levitating vehicles. He pulled his coat tighter around himself, trying to feel at home in a place that felt almost designed to make humans feel small. He had come here with high hopes, dreaming of adventure, work, and a chance to prove himself. But months had passed, and every dream had collided with harsh reality. Work for humans in Zyphera was scarce. Most of the jobs went to native aliens or the few other species that had long-established connections. Alex was a stranger here, and strangers often paid the highest price for rent, food, and everything else. As he walked toward his apartment block, the neon signs flickered in a pattern that seemed to mock him. He passed a noodle stall operated by a six-armed alien who gave him a sympathetic nod. Alex forced a smile. Even in a city full of towering, strange beings, there were small gestures of kindness. It was just that kindness didn't pay rent. His building loomed ahead, a massive structure of polished obsidian and steel designed to make tenants feel like they were living inside a fortress. The sliding doors hissed open as he entered. The lobby smelled faintly of ozone and something metallic, mixed with the strange perfume of the alien cleaners who glided silently across the floors. "Mercer!" a voice called, deep and commanding. Alex froze. He hadn't expected anyone to notice him already. He turned slowly. There she stood, taller than any being he had ever met. Her skin shimmered like polished bronze, and her eyes, sharp and golden, seemed to pierce straight through him. Vera, his landlord, was a giant among giants. Even among Zyphera's tallest species, she towered, and there was no mistaking the authority she carried in every movement. "Can't pay your rent, huh?" she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight like a hammer striking stone. Alex swallowed. His hands were trembling slightly. I'm working on it," he said. Vera's lips curved, not into a smile, but into something that suggested amusement, or perhaps curiosity. "Working on it?" she asked, her voice calm but laced with the kind of warning that could freeze someone in place. "You humans always say that, don't you? You work, you try, you promise, but somehow the debts remain." He nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Humans had always been underestimated on Zyphera, and Alex could feel that familiar weight pressing against him, the unspoken assumption that he would fail. Vera's eyes studied him for a long moment. Alex could feel them like sunlight on his skin. Then she spoke again. "I like humans, you are unpredictable," Alex blinked. "Unpredictable?" "Yes," she said, stepping closer. The space between them seemed smaller than it should have been despite her size. "Aliens like predictability, plans, logic, systems. You humans, you surprise us. Sometimes it is a delight, sometimes a problem, but always it is interesting." He swallowed again. "I'll pay soon, I just need more time." Vera's gaze softened fractionally. "Time," she mused. "You want time, but you live in a city where time is earned with courage, not promises." She leaned down slightly, enough that her golden eyes were level with his own. "There is a way, human, but it is not easy. Are you willing to risk your life for your rent?" Alex's heart leapt. Risk his life? He had expected eviction, fines, maybe a stern warning, not a challenge, not a test. I'll try," he said, almost without thinking. The word left his lips before he could analyze it. He had no other choice. Eviction on Zyphera was not just uncomfortable, it could be dangerous. Homelessness in this city meant exposure to predators, thieves, and worse. Vera studied him for a moment longer. Then she straightened, towering above him once more. "Very well," she said. "There is a task. Dangerous, yes. Rewarding, yes. Accept it, and your debt disappears. Fail, and well, I suppose eviction will be the least of your worries." Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. "What is it?" "The Gravemire Caverns," she said. The words seemed to echo off the walls of the lobby. "A place no alien dares enter. The artifact hidden there is yours to retrieve if you survive. Succeed, and you pay nothing. Fail, and the city will not miss your absence." He stared at her. "Gravemire Caverns, that's a death trap. No one comes back from there alive." Vera's lips curved into what might have been a smile. "Then you will be the first human. Perhaps the universe needs to see what a human can do when cornered." Alex's stomach twisted, but somewhere deep inside, something ignited. He had always been underestimated. On Earth, he had been overlooked, ignored, told he was too small, too weak, too fragile. Here, in a city of giants and aliens, the same assumptions followed him. But now he had a chance to prove them all wrong. "I'll do it," he said firmly. Vera nodded. "Good, you leave at sunrise, prepare yourself. Gather what you need, but remember, you will have nothing I would consider helpful. This task is for humans alone. It is your wits, your courage, and your stubbornness that will carry you." Alex felt a rush of adrenaline. He nodded again, then turned and left the lobby, his mind spinning. He had little time to prepare, and the city outside suddenly felt more intimidating than ever. Creatures with 4 legs, 6 arms, or no arms at all flowed past him in a blur of motion and noise. He realized just how fragile humans were in a city designed for giants, and yet, for the first time, he felt alive. Back in his small apartment, he began to plan. His supplies were limited. A few basic tools, some rations, and his portable AI companion, Tavi, which was more of a smart assistant than a fighter. He reviewed maps of Zyphora and the outskirts, studying the path to Gravemire Caverns as best he could with the sparse data available. The caverns were notorious, not just for their deadly wildlife, but for the shifting terrain and unstable quantum anomalies reported by those few aliens who had ventured near. He sat down on his bed, Tavi hovering beside him. "This is insane," he muttered. "No alien would dare go there, and here I am, a human with a few gadgets expected to survive." Tavi's soft voice replied, "Insanity is often the precursor to greatness, Alex. Remember your species' history. Humans thrive in situations others deem impossible. Resourcefulness, adaptability, ingenuity, these are your advantages." Alex couldn't help but smile. It was strange to hear encouragement from a machine, but it was what he needed. "Then let's make history," he whispered almost to himself. The night passed slowly. He packed his limited gear, double-checked his maps, and reviewed strategies for survival. Each sound from outside, the distant hum of airships, the chatter of aliens, the occasional roar of a massive predator, made him more aware of the danger that awaited him. He could almost feel Vera's gaze on him, even though she was far away, a reminder that his debt, and perhaps his life, depended on the success of his mission. By dawn, Alex stood at the edge of the city. Zyphora's skyline gleamed behind him, a mix of beauty and intimidation. The caverns awaited, dark and foreboding, a place no human or alien had ever returned from. Yet he felt a strange thrill in his chest. For once, no one could predict what he would do next. He was small, fragile, underestimated, but he was human, and humans had a way of surviving where others could not. With a deep breath, he started his journey. Every step away from the city was a step into the unknown. Every shadow could hide danger. Every sound could signal a predator, or worse. But for the first time in months, Alex felt hope. Not the quiet hope of a paycheck or a warm bed, but the fierce, exhilarating hope of someone who has nothing to lose and everything to prove. He glanced back once, catching a fleeting glimpse of Vera watching him from a high balcony, her golden eyes gleaming. There was no fear in her expression, only anticipation. She was not his enemy, she was his challenge, the measure of what humans could do when cornered. And somehow, Alex knew that she would be telling stories of this human, the one who dared enter the Gravemire Caverns, whether he returned or not. The city faded behind him as he moved forward. The rising sun painted the horizon in shades of gold and crimson. Alex's heart pounded. This was no longer about rent. This was no longer about survival alone. This was about showing the universe what humans could do, even when the odds were stacked impossibly against them. Every step into the wilderness was a step into legend. Alex moved carefully through the outskirts of Zyphora. The city's bright towers faded behind him, replaced by wild, uneven terrain. Alien plants with glowing tendrils reached up like fingers, brushing against his coat as he walked. Strange insects buzzed overhead, their wings flashing like tiny mirrors in the sunlight. Every sound made him tense, every shadow made him pause. The further he went, the more he realized that survival in this place would require more than courage. It would require thinking differently, seeing opportunities where others saw only danger. Tavi hovered near his shoulder, projecting maps and data onto a small, flickering display. "According to previous reports, Gravemire Caverns are unstable," it said. "Quantum shifts, falling rocks, and hostile fauna make them extremely dangerous. Caution is advised." "I don't need caution," Alex muttered, though his fingers tightened around his walking stick. I need creativity, cleverness, and speed. He forced himself to step over a thick root, noticing how the plant reacted to his movement, retracting slightly. Even here, nature seemed alive in ways humans were not used to. Hours passed. The landscape became more chaotic, rocks jutting out like broken teeth, rivers of strange, dark liquid cutting through the terrain. The air itself carried a faint hum, a vibration that made Alex's teeth chatter. He had never felt anything like this on Earth. He pressed forward, relying on instinct and his own ingenuity. He noticed small signs, a set of tracks that led around a particularly sharp cliff edge, a branch that could serve as a lever to move a heavy boulder blocking a path. Every step was a test, and every solution was born from human adaptability. Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath him. He stumbled but caught himself on a nearby rock. The terrain seemed alive, almost aware. Tavi's voice sounded urgently in his ear. Alex, quantum instability detected ahead. Probability of rockfall increased by 42%. Alex looked up. A massive overhang threatened to collapse. He scanned the surroundings, spotting a series of smaller rocks and thick vines. With quick thinking, he tied a vine to a loose rock, creating a simple counterweight system. Pulling it carefully, he managed to shift the overhang slightly, reducing the risk of collapse. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to give him a clear path. Not bad, human, Tavi said. That was creative problem-solving, Alex smiled. Praise from an AI wasn't the same as admiration from a living being, but it helped. Thanks, keep alert, we're not out of danger yet. By midday, he reached a small plateau overlooking a valley that led to the caverns. The sight was breathtaking and terrifying. Massive stone formations jutted from the ground like jagged teeth. Mist rolled over the rocks in thick white clouds, hiding parts of the valley from view. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. Gravemire caverns weren't just dangerous, they were alive in a way that defied logic. He took a moment to rest, drinking from his water supply and eating a small ration. Tavi analyzed the surroundings, projecting a 3D map. Entry point to the caverns is approximately 2 kilometers ahead. Terrain will become increasingly unstable. Hostile fauna has been detected in the area. Alex nodded, gripping his walking stick tighter. He knew that every move from here on out could be critical. The caverns weren't just a place to traverse. They were a place designed to test the mind, body, and courage of anyone who dared enter. As he moved down into the valley, he heard a distant roar, low and guttural. He froze, scanning the area. 2 figures emerged from the mist, creatures with 4 muscular legs, covered in thick scales and eyes that glowed faintly red. They looked at him curiously, sniffing the air. Alex's heart raced. He had studied alien wildlife, but nothing prepared him for the immediacy of danger. Running wasn't an option. The terrain was too uneven, and the creatures were faster than he could manage. He needed a plan. He looked around and spotted a large boulder nearby. Using his human ingenuity, he rolled it slowly down a slope, creating a diversion. The creatures growled and shifted toward the noise. Alex seized the moment and moved carefully past them, using the shadows and uneven ground to stay hidden. He exhaled when he was out of sight, his body tense from the adrenaline. That's the thing about humans, he muttered to Tavi. We find ways out when everything seems impossible. Hours turned into evening. The sun's light dimmed, replaced by a strange, bioluminescent glow from plants scattered throughout the valley. The glowing flora lit a path toward the entrance of Gravemire Caverns. Alex approached cautiously, noting every detail. A loose rock here, a faint vibration there, a narrow ledge that could serve as a shortcut. He relied on his senses and intuition, using methods no alien would consider. The entrance loomed before him, a massive arch of black stone, jagged and ominous. A cold wind blew from within, carrying the scent of damp earth and something metallic. It was silent, but the silence was thick, almost suffocating. Alex paused, studying the entrance. There were multiple tunnels, each twisting into darkness. He couldn't see which path led to the artifact, but he knew hesitation could be deadly. "This is it," he whispered. No turning back. Inside, the caverns were darker than anything Alex had imagined. The walls pulsed faintly, as if breathing. Every step echoed, creating shadows that seemed to move on their own. The floor was uneven, slippery with a strange, almost oily substance. Alex moved slowly, testing each step before committing. He soon encountered his first obstacle, a chasm too wide to jump with walls too slick to climb. Alex's mind raced. He noticed a series of vines hanging from the ceiling. Using his walking stick, he tested their strength. They held carefully. He swung across, relying on timing, balance, and intuition. When he reached the other side, his hands were scraped and his muscles burned, but he had made it. "Impressive," Tavi said. "Your calculations were accurate." Human improvisation is effective in unpredictable conditions. Alex chuckled, even though he was exhausted. "Thanks, I'll take that as a compliment." He pressed deeper into the caverns. The air grew colder, heavier. Strange sounds echoed, clicks, whispers, and the occasional roar that vibrated through the stone. Alex felt the weight of isolation pressing on him. He was alone, far from any help, facing dangers that no being had successfully navigated before. Yet he pressed on. That was what humans did. They adapted, persevered, and thrived even when others thought them fragile. As night fell, Alex found a small alcove and set up a temporary camp. He ate another ration, cleaned minor scrapes, and reviewed the path ahead. Tavi displayed a faint heat signature in the distance. Something large was moving inside the caverns. Alex studied it carefully. He didn't panic. Instead, he formulated a plan. "I can use the terrain," he muttered. "I can lure it toward the side tunnel, then slip past." Hours passed, and the large creature came into view. It was massive, with armored scales and claws capable of slicing through stone. Its eyes glowed red in the dim light. Alex acted. Using a small rock, he created a noise on one side of the tunnel. The creature turned, snarling, and moved toward it. Alex stayed low, using a series of ledges and shadows to move silently past. Once he was clear, he allowed himself a brief sigh of relief. "Humans can be clever when pushed to the edge," he said to Tavi. The deeper Alex went, the more he realized that the caverns were not just dangerous, they were a test. Every obstacle seemed designed to challenge his mind and body. Yet with each step, he felt his confidence growing. No alien could have navigated this path with his methods. Only humans, with their creativity and stubbornness, could survive here. By dawn, he reached a narrow corridor illuminated by faint crystal growths. The corridor twisted and turned, and he could see the faint glow of the artifact ahead, pulsing with light. But he also noticed movement, a group of small, agile creatures patrolling the area. They were fast and aggressive, but Alex noticed patterns in their movement. Using the timing of their patrols and his quick thinking, he slipped past them without confrontation. Finally, he reached a small chamber. At the center, resting on a pedestal of black stone, was the artifact, a crystal pulsating with light and energy. Alex approached cautiously. He reached out and touched it. The warmth and hum of energy flowed through him, confirming its authenticity. A sense of triumph filled him, but he didn't relax. He still had to return alive, and the caverns were far from finished testing him. Yet for the first time, he felt the thrill of accomplishment. He had survived, relied on his own ingenuity, and proven that a human could stand where others could not. As he turned to leave the chamber, he knew the journey back would be even more dangerous. But he also knew that nothing could stop a human determined to succeed, not in the caverns, not in the galaxy. Every step away from the artifact was a step toward legend. Alex held the artifact tightly in his hands, its soft glow illuminating the dark cavern walls. The thrill of success surged through him, but he knew the hardest part was still ahead, returning to Scifi alive. The Gravemire caverns were unforgiving, and now, carrying the artifact, he was an even bigger target. Every shadow seemed deeper, every sound sharper. He moved cautiously, retracing his path. The creatures he had avoided on the way in were now more alert. The large, armored beast was nowhere in sight, but Alex knew that absence did not mean safety. He kept his senses sharp, listening for the faintest vibrations, watching the flicker of lights on the cavern walls, and feeling for the subtle shifts in the air that could signal danger. Hours passed. The glowing crystals on the walls dimmed and brightened unpredictably, casting long shadows that danced across the jagged stone. Alex navigated carefully, using the same techniques that had gotten him this far: observation, improvisation, and timing. He paused frequently, catching his breath and checking the artifact, ensuring its energy pulses remained stable. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the cavern, a series of sharp clicks followed by the sound of rushing movement. Alex froze. Tavi's voice came in tense. "Alex, multiple large heat signatures detected ahead. They appear to be moving toward you at high speed. Suggest immediate caution." Alex's heart raced. He stepped into a narrow crevice, pressing himself against the stone wall. Through the shadows, he could see them, a group of alien mercenaries armed with strange weapons that glowed faintly in the dark. They were scanning the area, clearly searching for the artifact. He had no intention of confronting them head-on. Humans were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most armed species in the galaxy, but humans were clever. Alex studied the terrain. He noticed a series of narrow ledges above the mercenaries' path and a loose boulder hanging precariously over a passage. A plan began to form. He waited until the mercenaries were directly below. Then, using his walking stick as leverage, he pushed the boulder just enough for it to shift and block the path behind them. The mercenaries stumbled, their formation breaking as they scrambled to regain control. Alex climbed quickly onto the ledges above, using the shadows to stay hidden. His heart pounded, but he moved with precision, every step calculated. Once he was out of sight, he allowed himself a brief moment to breathe. "Humans," he muttered, "we might not be the strongest, but we sure know how to survive." Tavi's voice replied calmly, "Indeed, Alex, creativity and adaptability are core human advantages." As he moved further along the ledges, he noticed another problem. The corridor narrowed sharply, forcing him to squeeze between walls, the artifact tucked carefully under his arm. The mercenaries were persistent, following the general direction of his escape. Alex realized that the longer he delayed, the more dangerous the pursuit would become. He spotted a side tunnel leading downward, partially hidden behind hanging vines. Without hesitation, he dropped quietly into the tunnel. The air was colder here, damp and heavy, carrying the faint scent of mineral-rich water. He moved carefully, mindful of every step. The tunnel twisted unpredictably, but it provided the cover he needed. After what felt like hours, he emerged into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. Strange, luminescent fungi grew along the walls, casting a greenish glow that illuminated ancient carvings on the stone. Alex paused to examine them. The symbols were unfamiliar, but he sensed they told a story, perhaps of explorers, of travelers, or of a species that once understood this place. "This place has history," he whispered to Tavi. "Humans might not be the first, but maybe we're the ones who can finally survive it." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath him. Dust fell from the ceiling as a deep rumble echoed through the chamber. Alex froze. The caverns were unstable, and now he faced the additional threat of collapse. He scanned the room and noticed a series of stalagmites and narrow paths leading to a small tunnel in the far corner. He had to move quickly. Using his knowledge of balance and timing, Alex navigated the chamber carefully, leaping from one stalagmite to another, avoiding falling debris. A large rock fell behind him, narrowly missing his feet. His muscles burned, but he pressed on. Survival demanded endurance, and humans had long been masters of pushing beyond limits. As he reached the tunnel, he heard the mercenaries' voices echoing behind him. They were close. Alex's mind raced. He had to find a way to slow them down without direct confrontation. He noticed a pile of loose stones near the tunnel entrance. With quick thinking, he created a simple trap, a small rock slide triggered by a thin branch. When the mercenaries reached the chamber, Alex pulled the branch from the safety of the tunnel. The stones tumbled down, blocking the narrow path and forcing the mercenaries to climb over dangerous terrain. He seized the opportunity to move ahead, slipping through the tunnel with the artifact secured. The tunnel eventually led to a subterranean river. Its waters were dark and fast-flowing, but Alex recognized a chance. He spotted a series of wide stones that formed a makeshift bridge. Timing each jump carefully, he crossed the river, using his agility and observation to avoid slipping into the cold, rushing water. Finally, he emerged into a smaller cavern. The air was warmer, the sound of dripping water echoing softly. He allowed himself a brief moment of relief. He had made it past the mercenaries, navigated treacherous terrain, and kept the artifact safe. For a moment, he felt the satisfaction of triumph. But Tavi's voice reminded him, "Alex, you are not yet safe. Exit to the surface remains hazardous. Additional obstacles and unstable terrain are ahead." Alex nodded. He had no choice but to continue. The caverns had tested him, but they had also sharpened his skills. Every challenge he had faced, every problem he had solved, reinforced the fact that humans could survive where others failed. He pressed onward, encountering a series of narrow passages that required him to crawl, climb, and even swing across gaps using vines and stalactites. Each obstacle tested his strength, patience, and problem-solving abilities. He was exhausted, but determination kept him moving. Hours later, he reached a chamber filled with faintly glowing crystals. The walls vibrated slightly, resonating with the energy of the artifact. Alex paused, noticing a pattern in the vibrations. Using his understanding of rhythm and timing, he moved carefully through the chamber, avoiding areas that seemed unstable. As he reached the far end, he heard the mercenaries again. They had found another path and were closing in. Alex's pulse quickened. He needed a plan to escape the caverns and return to Zyphero alive. He noticed a series of tunnels above him, partially hidden by rock formations. Climbing carefully, he found a narrow ledge that led to an opening in the cavern's ceiling. It was steep and dangerous, but it offered a potential exit. Using every ounce of strength and balance, Alex climbed, relying on his intuition and human ingenuity to navigate the treacherous path. Finally, he emerged into a small cave at the surface. Moonlight spilled across the rocky ground. He was bruised, exhausted, and covered in dust, but he had made it. The artifact pulsed softly in his hands, a symbol of his success. As he looked around, he realized something remarkable. The caverns had tested him in every way possible, physically, mentally, and emotionally. He had faced predators, unstable terrain, and mercenaries, yet he survived. He had relied on human creativity, adaptability, and resilience to navigate a world that seemed designed to crush him. He allowed himself a moment of quiet triumph. "We did it, Tavi," he said, smiling despite the pain. "Humans can survive anything, even here." Tavi replied, "Indeed, Alex. You have proven that human ingenuity and courage can overcome challenges that others cannot even imagine. Your species is remarkable." Alex looked at the horizon, where the lights of Zyphera glimmered faintly in the distance. The city seemed smaller now, less intimidating. He had ventured into the unknown, faced death, and emerged victorious. The caverns had been a test, and humans had passed. With the artifact secure and his resolve stronger than ever, Alex began the journey back to Zyphera. The path would still be dangerous, and the mercenaries were likely still pursuing him. But he knew something important. No challenge was too great for a human willing to think, adapt, and persevere. Every step he took was a testament to humanity's strength. Every problem he solved was proof that humans could survive, and even thrive, where others failed. The Gravemire caverns had tried to break him, but they had only made him stronger. And as he moved toward the city, artifact in hand, he realized that this was only the beginning. The universe might be full of giants, monsters, and dangers beyond imagination, but humans had a secret weapon: their ingenuity, courage, and relentless spirit. No matter how impossible the odds, Alex knew one thing for certain. Humans could rise, adapt, and conquer challenges that seemed insurmountable. And he intended to show the universe exactly that. Alex Mercer emerged from the Gravemire caverns just as the first light of dawn touched the horizon. The air outside was crisp and filled with the scent of wet stone and alien flora. For the first time in days, he could breathe deeply without constant tension pressing on his chest. The caverns were behind him, and in his hands pulsed the artifact, proof of his triumph. He paused, surveying the landscape. The path back to Zyphera would be difficult. The terrain that had been dangerous on the way in was now even more treacherous, and he had to remain vigilant. The alien mercenaries might still be tracking him, and the Gravemire caverns had a reputation for shifting terrain that could trap even the most careful traveler. But Alex felt different now. He was tired, bruised, and exhausted, but he was alive. And he knew that humans could achieve things no one expected when faced with impossible odds. His first challenge was crossing the valley that led from the caverns to the main outskirts of the alien city. The bioluminescent plants that glowed at night had faded in the daylight, making it easier to see. But that also meant he could be seen by any observers. He moved carefully, crouching low, and relied on the natural cover of jagged rocks and tall alien grasses. Every sound of movement made his heart race, but he stayed calm, remembering the lessons he had learned deep inside the caverns. Observe, anticipate, and improvise. Tavi hovered beside him, analyzing the surroundings. Alex's probability of detection by hostile entities in this area is moderate. Recommend using alternate route along the ridge to the east. Alex nodded. Good thinking, Tavi. Let's go. The ridge was steep and narrow, but it offered a clear vantage point over the valley below. Alex climbed carefully, using his walking stick to balance on loose rocks. His muscles ached, His hands were scraped and bleeding, but he refused to stop. Every step forward was a victory. He knew that giving up was not an option. Humans were persistent. Humans adapted. Humans survived. As he moved along the ridge, Alex spotted signs that the mercenaries were still searching: disturbed rocks, broken branches, and faint tracks in the soil. He smiled quietly. They were methodical but predictable. Their patterns were obvious to a human who thought differently. Using a combination of distraction and quick movement, he managed to slip past them without confrontation. He dropped small rocks in strategic places, creating false noise that drew the mercenaries away from his path. By midday, he reached a high cliff that overlooked the outskirts of Zyphora. The city's towers sparkled in the sunlight, a mix of steel, crystal, and neon colors. He had made it. After days of navigating deadly terrain, dodging predators, and outsmarting alien mercenaries, he was finally close to safety. But he did not rush. He knew that overconfidence could be fatal. He rested briefly, checked the artifact, and took a careful survey of the area. From this vantage point, he could see the main roads leading into the city and the likely patrol routes of the mercenaries. He planned his approach, using the cover of alien structures and shadows to guide his path. As he descended into the city outskirts, Alex noticed a subtle change. The alien guards and citizens seemed to glance at him with curiosity rather than hostility. Perhaps it was the artifact's glow, or perhaps it was something about his determination that made him stand out. He did not have time to dwell on it. His focus remained on reaching Vera, the giant alien woman who had given him the challenge that tested every ounce of his strength, intelligence, and courage. Finally, after hours of careful movement, he reached the city's central district. Zyphora's streets were crowded with beings of all shapes and sizes, moving through a cacophony of alien languages and sounds. Alex felt a surge of relief. He had returned alive, and the artifact was still safe. He had proven what humans could do when faced with impossible odds. At the building where he had first met Vera, Alex paused. The lobby looked the same as it had days ago, but everything felt different. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the city itself knew something remarkable had happened. He stepped inside. Vera was waiting as she had promised. Her golden eyes scanned him, and for the first time Alex noticed a small, approving smile on her lips. "You returned," she said, her voice calm but filled with a weight that made every word significant. Alex approached, careful to maintain respect while showing the quiet pride he felt. "I did," he said simply. "The artifact is intact. The caverns, they were more dangerous than anyone could imagine, but I made it through." Vera studied him for a long moment. "I had no doubt that a human could try, but I admit I did not expect you to succeed. Most beings, alien or otherwise, would have failed long before this point. You have exceeded expectations." Alex felt a mix of relief and pride. "Thank you. It wasn't easy, but humans, we adapt. We find solutions when others see only problems. We survive." Vera nodded slowly. "Indeed, that is why I chose you for this task. The universe underestimates humans. They assume weakness, fragility, unpredictability, but you have proven them wrong. You have shown ingenuity, courage, and resilience." Alex smiled faintly. "I guess humans always find a way." Vera's smile widened slightly, rare for someone of her stature and demeanor. "More than that," she said, "you have reminded all who hear this story that humans can thrive where giants tread. That is why I am offering more than a simple forgiveness of your debt. You will have a position here in Zyphora, working with the city's council and explorers, bridging humans and aliens. Your ingenuity and courage can be a lesson for many." Alex's heart raced. He had expected debt forgiveness, perhaps some recognition, but this was beyond anything he could have imagined. He had not only survived, he had earned respect and opportunity on a scale he had never thought possible. I don't know what to say," he admitted. "Say nothing," Vera replied. "Let your actions speak for you. The city will remember your name. Your species will be remembered. Humans are underestimated, Alex. Never forget that." Alex nodded, feeling a powerful sense of accomplishment. For so long, he had been small, fragile, and overlooked. On Zyphora, a world of giants and creatures that could crush him without effort, he had proven that humans were more than they seemed. Humans had courage, creativity, and determination. Humans could survive and even thrive where others would fail. As he left Vera's presence, the city felt different. The streets, once overwhelming and intimidating, now seemed alive with possibility. He had survived the Gravemire caverns, outsmarted mercenaries, and proven the worth of human ingenuity. The artifact, a symbol of his triumph, pulsed softly in his pack. It was proof not just of his survival, but of humanity's potential. Alex walked through the bustling streets with a renewed sense of purpose. He noticed aliens pausing briefly as he passed, their expressions changing from indifference to respect. Perhaps they had heard rumors of what he had accomplished, or perhaps the artifact's energy carried a presence of power. Either way, it didn't matter. What mattered was that humans, small and underestimated, could achieve greatness when they refused to give up. By the time he reached a high balcony overlooking the city, Alex paused to take in the view. Scifi stretched out before him, a city of giants, danger, and opportunity. He realized that this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, full of unknown challenges and unimaginable threats. But he was human, and humans had a way of rising to the occasion. He smiled. The Gravemire caverns had tested him, nearly destroyed him, and pushed him to the limits of endurance. But they had also revealed something essential. The human spirit, unbroken and resilient, could overcome any obstacle. No challenge was too great, no foe too powerful, no place too dangerous. With the artifact secure, his debt cleared, and his future open to possibilities he had never imagined, Alex felt a surge of pride. He had survived, and he had proven humanity's worth to a world that doubted it. Scifi, the city of giants, would never forget the human who entered the Gravemire caverns and emerged victorious. And Alex knew, deep in his heart, that humans would continue to rise. Wherever danger lay, wherever challenges appeared, humans would find a way. They were clever, adaptable, and relentless. They were survivors, they were fighters, and they were capable of greatness beyond imagination. As the sun rose fully over Scifi, casting golden light over the city's towers, Alex Mercer stood tall, bruised, but unbroken. He had entered a world that doubted him, faced dangers no alien would dare confront, and returned not only alive but triumphant. The universe had underestimated humans, but now it had been shown the truth. Alex tightened his grip on the artifact and looked toward the horizon, ready for whatever adventure awaited next. The Gravemire caverns were behind him, but the story of humanity's courage and ingenuity was only beginning. And one thing was certain: wherever humans went, greatness would follow.